YouTube. So it's Tom back with another one for you. And this one is a continuation of the redemption manual. This is the ninth video, I believe, on this here. Getting into the good shit now. And, we'll bounce it back and forth between this and cracking the code, which is kind of the same thing, but written by different people. So they have different elements that I think are crucial to understanding. And this will work too in the sense that you're going to hear it a few different times, which is going to help you be able to understand it better and program it into your mind exactly what it is, the message that this book is trying to convey. Okay, so let's get right into this shit. So this talks about the straw man, our mirror image. The mirror image is referred to in the public system as the straw man. This is what was created by the registration or filing of an individual birth certificate. The government at your birth created a trust, a public entity, which they have direct nexus with, giving them the liability to play both sides of the board and control the energy of your life. They bonded this entity, which you more commonly known as the all capital letter version of your name, or straw man. The creative bonds against your future earnings, hedging a bet against your future earnings and the amount they could take from you through your lifetime. At this point in time, we can see that the government is neither responsible nor a good gambler by the amount of debt that continues to grow. Major issues with this is that these bonds all fall back on the taxpayer. So in short, this is your money that you're playing with, accruing interest and adding up against you. This is tantamount to you going to the casino, betting with other people's money without them knowing, but still sending them the bill. There is good news. You can also bet against yourself doing the same things that they do, for the government has no more power than the people do, as you cannot derive more power from the entity that gave you the power in the first place. So if you look at yourself like the glass of water, and you authorize someone else to take some of your water, you can't give them more water than you have in your glass. So this is the same concept as the government borrowing the power that you gave them. They cannot have more power than the power that you gave them. You can't have more than the creator can only rule whatever it creates. You know what I'm saying? So they created the fictional name, the fictional version of you. That's all that they can fucking run. They can't run you as a person so much as they can run the fictional entity, right? But that's not you. So two quotes, one from the past and one from the present. John Adams said, "I'm firmly of the opinion that there never was a paper pound, a paper dollar, or a paper promise of any kind that ever yet obtained a general currency as money, but by force and fraud, that the army has been grossly cheated, that the creditors have been infamously defrauded. Some closed their shops to prevent being paid off with worthless paper money, that the widows and fatherless have been oppressively wronged and beggared, that the gray hairs of the aged and the innocent, for want of their just dues, have gone down with sorrow to their graves in consequence of our disgraced, depreciated paper currency." And so, I mean, it's pretty obvious what the fuck is going on. And it all really stems from the whole fiat currency system, where they have you thinking it's something else. So the silent weapons for quiet wars. The international organizational intents, purposes, and activities include complete control of public finances, controlled supervision and audit of indigenous fiscal resources, budget practices, taxation, expenditures of public funds, currency issues, and banking agencies and affiliates. This, of course, complies with Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, which is a book that we're going to get into at some point too. So, which discloses a declaration of war upon the American people, to wit. This manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent. Such a writing must be secured from the public scrutiny, otherwise it might be recognized as a technical formal declaration of domestic war. Furthermore, whenever any person or group or persons in a position of great power and without the consent of the public uses such knowledge and methodology for economic conquest, it must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between said person or a group of persons and the public. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with the ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy and wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible, many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. Secret Weapons for Quiet Wars. So that's a good book too. You guys should look that up. If you guys need it too, send me an email and shit. I'll find it for you. So in order to archive, in order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the lowest class elements of the social society must be brought under control, i.e., must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke and long-term social duties from a very early age before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for occupationally orphaned children. And that's what they do. So at one point in this country, one person in the family used to be able to work, and one could stay home, teach some family values and things of that nature. They purposely break up family units in order to get access to the fucking children earlier, so they can start brainwashing them super early in daycare and things like that, right? To start with the whole fucking control system and house breaking them in, as they just said, to get them fucking house broken. So, because you can't go get a lion in the wild and make him eat out of your hand, because he'll fucking eat your face. You don't give a fuck what you're talking about. But if you get him from a cub and you convince him that you're stronger than him, he's always gonna think that you're stronger than him, even when you're big enough to eat his fucking face. That's what they're doing to you, okay? The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the moat of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even the brightest lower class individual have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintaining some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Page 8, Secret Weapons for Quiet Wars. All transaction by physical entities, fictions at law, operated by their agents, employees, and all representatives and officers of their corporation. So you see how they took over the education system in order to fucking break motherfuckers in early. That was the whole point. And it was very well played. But the game's over, bro. So what is a fiction? What is a fiction at law? A fiction at law, or a legal fiction, is an artificially created entity that is only contemplated in law. In other words, it is not real except in the eyes of the law written by men. Legal fictions are the opposite of natural entities such as people. A created legal fiction is endowed by law to have some privileges that resemble the rights that people have, such as the right to hold property, to sue, and to be sued. The most common legal fictions are corporations and trusts. These have been around for quite some time, with their main purpose being to limit the liability of people holding the corporation or trust, allowing them to not be personally responsible for their actions as the corporations. They can do more than one thing that you cannot. They can live forever. Legal fictions are compatible with common law, which is the law of the land, which is the law that our land was founded upon. In common law, everyone is responsible for his own actions and is held responsible for any wrongdoing, harming others in any way. What does this have to do with me? In 1933, the governors for all the states met to discuss the emergency declared by FDR to support the new process that was being established. The government was in bankruptcy and had to be funded in its state of bankruptcy. The governors made a pledge to the state, United States Inc., Incorporated, to fund it. The pledge was that the assets and the energy of the people, would back the government and secure the debt. But there was one little problem. Natural living people cannot mix with legal fictions, corporations, so it was necessary to create a bridge between the legal fictions and the people to bring under control what makes them subservient to the government, corporation, via their pledge. When the governors made the pledge, they agreed to register the birth certificates of the people with the U.S. Department of Commerce. The birth certificate is a security instrument, collateral, used to back up the pledge. The legal fiction was created by using the name on the birth certificate and writing it in all capital letters, the designation for a legal fiction. Then, because of the pledge to you, were determined to be the surety for the legal fiction. Surety means the one who is responsible to pay when the government or any corporation uses any process whatsoever. They are using it against the legal fiction, which they want you to think is you, but it isn't. But when your name is written in all caps, it is not your name. It is the designation of a legal fiction that is entirely a separate entity. A living flesh and blood man cannot be a legal fiction, and a legal fiction cannot be a living flesh and blood man. One is real, one is natural, and the other is created by law. It is a fiction. Whenever a government agency such as a court determines liability, it is a liability directed to or laid upon the legal fiction or the straw man. Since everything is done in commerce with fictions, corporate entities, you are presumed as evidence by the pledge on your governor to be the surety for the straw man, and you must pay the fine, fee, tax, debt, or other liability. Remember, every transaction is presumed by the government to be a transaction in commerce by a legal fiction. So the problem that everybody is running into is when they go into court, they don't know that they're making reference to the legal fiction and not them as a fucking flesh, blood, or man or woman. Okay? That's a big problem. And they're not going to tell you that, but I will. Here we are. Addressing the straw man matter. What's the answer? The only way out of this is to overcome the presumption that you are the surety for the straw man, the legal fiction. That's why the redemption process is the only way to defeat the presumption by using the Uniform Commercial Code via public notice, which is the code that the fictional commercial world operates under. The first step is to capture the straw man, is to establish a security agreement between you and the straw man, and then file a UCC-1 financing statement to secure a claim via superior interest against all the capitalized fiction strawman. The property and the collateral, said security interest or registration of title control, is placed upon the birth certificate, social security account, driver's license, etc. by and through acceptance for value. Included in this process, the creation of copyright notice and hold harmless indemnity agreement, and many more to be gone over fully herein. The UCC-1 financing statement, security interest, and a lien, and the filing of the existence of these documents will redeem you and your debtor strawman from the commercial system and establish documented evidence to overcome the presumption that you are the surety for the straw man. When all has been accepted for value, including the birth certificate, you become the holder in due course of all the documents, collateral, and the property, and are now in commercial control of the property, the collateral, and the debtor. The process and instructions will be laid out in full shortly, along with instructions. Who and what is a straw man? The all caps John Doe or upper lowercase John Doe. At 15 USC clause 1127, the definitions include commercial name, trade name, juristic name, etc. In this section, you will find a government officer and employee functions in a commercial capacity. After considerable research, I am convinced that the straw man, i.e. all caps John Doe, is employed in order to create the presumption that whoever is named in a government officer employee. And so when you look up United States Code USC 26 person, individual, etc., these are all corporations, okay? It's never been you. It's never been you. They don't have the fucking jurisdiction over you as a live living man, only over the fiction. 26 USC Code Clause 6331, levy and distraint. If any person liable to pay any tax neglects or refuses to pay the same within 10 days after notice and demand, it shall be lawful for the secretary to collect such tax, and after such further sum, it shall be sufficient to cover the expenses of the levy. By levy upon all property and rights to property, except such property as is exempt under section 6334, belonging to such person on which there is a lien provided in this chapter for the payment of such tax. Levy may be made upon the accrued salary or wages of any officer, employee, or elected official in the United States, the District of Columbia, or any agency instrumentality of the United States or the District of Columbia, by serving a notice of levy on the employer as defined in section 3401D of such employer, employee, or the elected official. If the secretary makes a finding that the collection of such tax is in jeopardy, notice and demand for immediate payment of such tax may be made by the secretary, and upon failure or refusal to pay such tax, collection thereof by levy shall be lawful without regard to the 10-day period provided in this section. So they're only legally allowed to lay tax upon employees of the United States and fictional entities, not you as a live living man. Okay, that shit's illegal. So now that we have read section of the IRC section 6331 and seeing that it specifically states levy may be made upon the accrued salary or wages of any officer, and you can use this too. You can use this code if they have a levy on your checks and child support levies and shit like that. You can use this to show them that they're not authorized to fucking even be doing that shit to you, okay? Because they can only tax the employees of the United States. So 26 USC clause 6331, grab that if anybody's levying any of your shit and send this to them. Registered mail to a key binding agent. Okay, so here we go. The District of Columbia, or an agency or instrumentality of the United States, or District of Columbia, is the straw man, the mere artificial commercial entity by which the parent corporation, U.S. federal government, directs and extracts all fines, fees, and taxes from, is the straw man or employee or officer of the United States. If it is a trust regulated and held by the United States, well then absolutely the straw man, being the transmitting utility within the commercial scheme, venue, or the world, is that entity. It's not you. Then would it not be too far fetched to understand that since the government cannot produce the federal law or statute that specifically proves that a flesh, blood, man or woman is liable, because they can't prove that, all right? So you're gonna have to send them this in the form of an affidavit and tell them to prove to you that they're even authorized to be fucking taxing you to begin with. They can't prove that shit. So, and you're not, so if they can prove that you're subject and liable to the tax, that they're not, they not being federal employees are being that the tax is only applied to the straw man, and you now being in full control of the straw man and in the secured party creditor status, that you now have the ability to change your standing, thus limiting or eliminating such a burden. Does this not make sense now that you understand who and what the straw man is? The definition here: ens legis, which is the commercial fictional entity, a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person, applied to corporations considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law. Black's Law, 4th edition. Black's Law, Black Magic. Do the math. Definition: transmitting utility. Okay, it's a commercial conduit. Transmitting utility means a person primarily engaged in the business of operating a railroad, subway, street rail, or trolley bus, transmitting electric or electronic communications, which we are. We're fucking electric beings, but this can't make reference to us as a living being. Transmitting goods by pipeline or sewer, transmitting or producing and transmitting electricity, steam, gas, or water. Person means a corporate entity, a fiction, something other than the human being. So since you will become the secured party creditor and sovereign, you can define the term as well as applied to your debtor strawman being transmitting utility in commerce. Your debtor strawman is actually a commercial transmitting utility. Your debtor, is the utility that all commercial transaction charges pass through, and it is your duty and responsibility to accept for value and discharge all charges, claims, fines, debts, and taxes. All right, so now you got the definition of what a fucking straw man is. You got it right here. And you also have the definition of, what the fuck is it here? Definition of fucking 26 USC 6331. Okay, that's gonna be your ticket to get out of any fucking levies that they have upon you, of really any fucking charges at all. All right, so yeah, use that, write that shit down. So it is the game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these assholes, man. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.